Welcome to Fireside Giants. My name is Alex, co-host Anthony, not here today. Got stuck on a flight currently in Savannah, Georgia, trying to find his way back to Florida where he can be my co-host again. But nonetheless, okay, let's talk about yesterday's game. I've been thinking about it all day, obviously, and these losses tend to stick with us for a couple days until we move on to the next week. And I feel, I guess I'm just going to be honest with you guys. This time around felt a little bit different. We've been optimistic before. We've been pessimistic before. We've felt good about things before. We've seen reasons to be excited and hopeful that this team was going to turn things around. But at this point, I just feel lied to over and over again. I feel like the Giants have the best PR firm on planet Earth because they constantly convince us that there's something to root for here. They constantly convince us this is going to be a competitive product. And every single year, we're let down. And listen, it's week one. I really don't want to be overly negative and dramatic about this, but yesterday's performance looked like every other season. We have Abdul Carter and Russell Wilson and playmakers on defense, some guys on offense, and yet it seemed exactly the same. It seemed exactly the same. And I know that people will come into the mention and say, well, look at Daniel Jones and look what he did. Listen, he is not our quarterback anymore. He plays the Denver Broncos next week. Let's see what happens then. But yeah, he had a great performance. Not going to lie. He looked great. Better offensive line certainly does wonders. And, that's kind of where I want to start. And I want to start with the offensive line. I want to voice my concerns there. And I want to preface this by saying I've been a bit pessimistic about the offensive line because they didn't make any real improvements there. They didn't do anything. James Hudson signed a 2-year, $12 million deal. Do you understand that is $2 million less than what Jermaine Illuminor got from the Giants? And he is a starting caliber player. And James Hudson played 222 snaps last year on a horrible Browns offensive line. I don't understand where Joe Schoen is coming up with the logic to spend on certain players. Darius Slayton was a $36 million extension. He got one fucking target yesterday, guys. One fucking target. I'm sorry. I'm going to preface by saying you guys should probably not have kids or at least have headphones on when you listen to this episode because I don't think I can hold back with the cursing in this one, at least a little bit, because I'm that frustrated right now. James Hudson signed a 2-year, $12 million deal. He was the worst pass protector on a pretty bad pass protecting line yesterday. Darius Slayton had a 3-year, $36 million deal, and he didn't catch a pass yesterday. Okay? The malpractice when it comes to resource allocation from this front office has gotten out of hand. I'm going to use my Twitter as a pretty good way to kind of help this conversation flow. And the first thing I want to point out is the last 3 draft classes before the 2025 draft, which we love Carter. We got to see what happens to Jackson Dart. But the 2023 draft for the Giants was basically a punt draft. Not a single player is providing value on this team right now from that draft class. Deonte Banks played 11 snaps yesterday. John Michael Schmitz is a fucking turnstile. Jalen Hyatt did not play a snap. When Malik Neighbors was off the floor yesterday, off the court, off the freaking field, Bo Collins, an undrafted free agent from this season, got playing time over Jalen Hyatt. Useless rostering of a player. The only reason he is on this freaking team is because the Giants wasted a 3rd-round pick on him and then failed to develop him. John Michael Schmitz, what happened to the really smart, high IQ player the Giants promised us when they took him? He is an undersized, underpowered, small center who can't hold his own. I watched him get bullied by Javon Kinlaw in the Washington interior defensive line yesterday. They couldn't move the line of scrimmage. They had Cam Scotabo at -3 yards. Tyrone Tracy averaged 2 yards per carry. One of the most embarrassing run performances I've seen, and we've seen, you guys know, we've seen some damn embarrassing offensive performances. That one, when it comes to the run game, was right up there. Right up there. Horrible. We have 4 players in the offensive line that should be freaking backups. Okay? Greg Van Roten is a 36-year-old backup that they signed to a $3 million deal to just survive. John Michael Schmitz is a player they have failed to develop. He isn't really even surviving. John Runyan, they dropped a 3-year, $30 million deal. He is a backup level player on this team. James Hudson is barely, I don't even consider him a backup. Marcus Bowe should be starting at left tackle. I begged them to do it this week. And Hudson gave up 6 pressures. 6 pressures in that game. 6. He led the team. He was useless. Embarrassing. The offensive line had some moments in pass pro that looked competent. But the moments that they did have in pass protection, where Russell Wilson had a second, he can't see over the line. He's 5'10", right? There's guys open downfield. I watched on 2 separate plays, pretty similar plays actually, where Darius Slayton and Theo Johnson were streaking up the right sideline or middle of the field. Those safeties were kind of pushed to the left. And Wilson dropped his eyes and took off running when he could have just waited an extra second, let the freaking play develop, and take a shot downfield. That's why, and we're going to talk about Jackson Dart in a couple minutes here, that's why I think they're going to turn to Dart faster, because the truth of the matter, in my opinion, is that Russell Wilson is washed. He is not keeping his eyes downfield. He's dropping his eyes. He's taking off running, and he's leaving yards on the football field, right? That's what I'm seeing. That's what I saw yesterday on multiple occasions. But, when it comes to the run game, you cannot open up play action. You cannot open up the passing game unless you have some sort of competency in the run game. The Giants had none of it. No competency, no efficiency, no production, nothing. And, we're obviously leaning on the offense right now. I liked the physicality I saw from Cam Scottaboo, aside from the -3 rushing yards. He had that, couple screens. He had a couple really nice pass blocking pickups where he's like a freaking rhinoceros. The way he just uses his head. Yeah, probably not healthy for him to use his head the way he does. Pause. But when you watch him play, he gets a whole team excited. The Giants don't have enough physicality on this team. They don't have enough moxie and discipline. They don't have enough intensity. Malik Neighbors was like, why was I pissed off for Brian Dable? Because nobody gave a shit yesterday. The energy was low. Nobody cared. I was trying to do something to get everyone rallied and going. They all looked like they did not want to play yesterday, aside from several select players. Andrew Phillips, I thought looked fantastic, right? Carter looked pretty solid. Brian Burns looked fantastic. Kayvon had a couple of good moments. Wan'Dale Robinson, the guy I've been preaching has been underrated, looked like the best offensive player yesterday. He fought for extra yards. He did what he had to do. He came up big on multiple occasions. I really liked what I saw from him. Got suplexed and bounced right back up and was trying to get after it. This is a player that wanted it. The Giants have a lot of players in this team that do not look like they give 100% effort. And that is a coaching problem, my friends. A coaching problem where players do not look like they want to play or look like they're giving half effort is because there's no consequences for doing dumb shit on this team. If you watch the Jets game, Aaron Glenn came out after the game and said, if you turn the ball over in critical moments, you are not seeing the field. If you have a penalty issue, you are not seeing the field. I watched multiple players make blasphemous, egregious penalty and errors and remain on the football field, right? This is the standard the Giants have set. There are no consequences for poor performance. When it comes to Deontay Banks, Cordell Flott had a couple of good moments yesterday. I thought he got picked on a little bit in the beginning, but he settled in, had a couple nice plays. I like what I saw from him. The defense as a whole held the Giants together in this game, right? Jaden Daniels is one of the best quarterbacks in football. He was basically mitigated for the first 2-3 quarters of that game until they just bent too far and broke. You can't hang on forever. I watched Brian Dable celebrate a freaking field goal to 6 points in the third quarter. He celebrated a field goal as if we just took the lead in the fourth quarter. Was that Josh Allen and the Bills coming back from the Ravens? He celebrated a field goal when we could not score in the red zone. I watched the Giants try to throw a pass to Marcus Bowe in the end zone before they targeted Malik Neighbors in the red zone. I'm sorry. I'm absolutely livid. I'm absolutely flabbergasted at the fact that the Giants can't get out of their own way. I'm flabbergasted at the fact that the Giants have some of the worst coaching in football year in and year out. They have zero discipline. They have zero intensity half the time. They have a couple of individual players that show up the first couple of weeks, and then by the time week 6, week 7 rolls around, and we're already 2-4 or 1-5, everyone's given up already. We expect these guys to show up every single week. They are paid to do that. That is their entire goal, is to be intense. If you watch some of these other good football teams, they rally to the football. They hit people hard. The Washington defense was freaking making us pay. I watched Theo Johnson drop 2 passes because he was scared to catch because he thought he was going to get rocked because there's Bobby Wagner hanging out back there. You know what I mean? No one's scared of Bobby Okereke. No one's scared of Darius Muasau. No one's scared of Tyler Nubin or Javon Holland, who, by the way, Holland looked horrible yesterday. Like, nobody's scared of this defense. Nobody's scared of these guys. Dexter Lawrence was double teamed all day. He had 0 pressures. This team needs a wake-up call, but I don't know how they've been in cryo sleep for 10 years. You know, they might as well put them on a spaceship, send them to Mars. They get better. They'll get to Mars before they even get good as a team on the Giants. It's absolutely blasphemous. So, you know, reverting back to the offense. Malik Neighbors frustrated. Brian Dable trying to calm him down. He's trying to get the energy up. I don't think the way Neighbors went about it was the right way. That's not how you get things going, by throwing a tantrum on the sidelines. We've seen that happen before with other players. It does not work, right? So if you're Malik Neighbors, throwing a tantrum is not the way to go about energizing your team, right? Privately go to Brian Dable, say, get me the damn football. Give me targets. You know, scheme me open. Mike Kafka's play calling was abysmal. As I referenced, we targeted Marcus Bowe in the end zone on the goal line before we threw a slant to our superstar receiver, okay? Neighbors wasn't even on the field the first play in the red zone. We tried to get cute on the first play on the freaking goal line because the Giants can't run the ball on the 1. Think about how freaking embarrassing that is. We can't run the ball, so we have to throw it to our freaking backup 5th-round rookie offensive tackle. Look, if it would have worked, we would have been praising Mike Kafka, but it didn't because Washington sniffed out the whole thing. They realized, oh, well, okay, why is Marcus Bowe eligible as a receiver? They have to announce it. Why is he eligible as a receiver? Let's guard him. There's only so many guys. Our front four is going to stop the run, right? There's nothing about the Giants and their trick plays that confuse anybody anymore. We've seen them 100 times. Everybody knows, right? The screen game was dead. I watched Russell Wilson try to throw a sidearm past the Malik Neighbors and bounced it off the freaking turf 5 yards in front of him because the defensive lineman got in the way, right? I don't even know what to say. The offensive line, the poor resource allocation, the failure to develop players. It's not like Washington's defense is that crazy good, guys. Like, their defense is fine. They're solid, but they're not like, we're going to play a lot worse defenses, a lot better defenses, rather, this season. And their defense made us look like a 0-win football team yesterday, right? The fact that we could not take a shot to Darius Slayton in man coverage or even in zone is really sad. We're watching Wandale do his usual 4-yard catch dance now again. Theo Johnson can't catch. Daniel Bellinger looked like the best tight end yesterday by far. So kudos to him. Like, Greg Dulcich might want to sign off the Dolphins practice squad because I don't think Theo Johnson deserves to start after this past game. To be quite honest with you, I think there has to be consequences for dropping 2 passes and basically offering nothing as a receiver. So I don't know. Like, it's week 1. I'm trying not to be over dramatic, but like, we've seen this story before. It's painful. The coaching is bad. Let's talk about Shane Bowen, right? Shane Bowen really confused me yesterday. And I kept saying, like, the biggest weakness on this defense is the play caller, Shane Bowen. He is the biggest concern I have for this defense. Why? Because he rotated guys out when they shouldn't have been rotating out. He had Chauncey Golston and like Kayvon Thibodeau on the field at the same time instead of Abdul Carter and Brian Burns on a 3rd down when they needed to get off the field. Get your best pass rushers in there, man. What are you doing? Like, they were converting over the middle of the field. I watched and I realized what the Commanders were doing at one point. They just had routes in the middle of the field, and the second Jaden Daniels would roll out to his right, those players, they were kind of just like option routes in a way, because they would sit down in the middle of the field, they would look at the defender in front of them, and they would just maneuver to the side that the defender was moving out of. The Giants could not stop it. They kept forcing Jaden Daniels to go to his right side, and that is where he fucking thrives. Shane Bowen, dude, that is on you, buddy. That's on you. You have to send blitzers from the right side to make him flush out to the left. So he can't throw the ball so seamlessly. Losing Micah McFadden was a massive blow early in that game. Darius Moose out, the touchdown against him from Zach Ertz, bad coverage. They immediately picked on him, right? Zero depth at linebacker, zero. And more so, failure to develop anyone we possibly draft there aside from McFadden, we drafted 4 years ago now. So Bobby Okereke had some decent reps, looked a little slow. And there was a big third down conversion by Austin Eckler where he completely just missed him in the open field. Again, unacceptable. Shane Bowen's situational play calling was mind-bogglingly bad. I thought Javon Holland had a bad game, missed some tackles. I thought Newbin had some okay plays earlier on, but by the time the game was washed, everyone just gave up. Flott had a good game for the most part in the second half. And, after the first quarter, got picked on. I think Paulson Adebo was fine. Terry McLaurin was mostly mitigated. I know Jaden Nails missed that one big throw that would have changed that whole narrative, but he missed it. So we'll give Paulson Adebo a bit of credit. He looked decent, looked fine. I had no problems with him for the most part. Andrew Phillips looked great. He had some really big plays on Deebo Samuel. He locked him down when he needed to, had some big third down stops as well. So I really liked what I saw from him. Carter, I'll say this, there were times where he was, kind of got his ass kicked. But I think he was mostly spying. And, I'd say the majority of his reps looked pretty good. I watched them this morning and I think that they looked fine. For the most part, he was the highest graded player via PFF, but there was some rookie moments. He got caught up on a couple blocks and, got taken out of a couple plays, but I thought he set the edge fine. And, he got after the quarterback well. He had a sack where he met with Kayvon Thibodeau in the middle and was encouraged. He had a blocked punt. I like how the Giants are using him on special teams. So that was definitely something to be encouraged by, how they're using him in different ways and deploying him to make an impact. So they only used him on 38 snaps, 11th lowest on the team. On the defensive side, or 11th highest, you could say. So I thought that he should have been on the field more. I think that they took him out for some reason and put Raheem Nunez-Roches in, and I don't think that he's very good, to be honest. I'd rather Carter be rushing from the interior and doing things. I mean, I really hope this isn't a season where we're talking about this same exact topic for 10 weeks, It's been 6 years of this, guys. We've been doing this podcast for a long time, Anthony and I. The truth is every season ends up like this, and it's week 1, which really actually infuriates me, but also makes me sad because we try to be positive. We try to bring a sense of optimism and hope to this team for you guys and for us. Honestly, we're huge fans. We talk about this team and we're content creators, but we started as fans of this team. You know what I mean? We just wanted to give our opinion to you guys and that you could follow along with us. And whether you agree or disagree, we all have the same goals, watching a good football team. The Giants have a chance to turn it around. It's week 1, but I think we got flashes of old Giants football and that scares us. I think we all kind of have a little PTSD from it, for lack of a better phrase. That's kind of what it feels like. We just know the feeling of being losers. Now, I do want to talk about Jackson Dart, and I do want to talk about the coaching staff and kind of what their leash is here, I guess I could say. When it comes to Jackson Dart, my timeline for him is 1 week after Andrew Thomas returns. I don't think Russell Wilson is going to turn this offense around to a level that we're yeah, he has to play, right? If he comes out next week against Dallas and puts up 22 points, that's not enough. Right, Dallas is a bad defense. The Eagles kind of handled them pretty easily until that rain delay, and it kind of threw off everybody's game. But I think that Dart needs to be in there pretty soon because he keeps his eyes downfield and he extends plays and he's not afraid of pressure and he has good peripherals and pocket presence. And I think that live action will help him grow. Now, I know there are going to be people that say we cannot throw Jackson Dart into this mess right now because the offensive line is not good enough. I'm scared the same thing is going to happen that the Giants did to Daniel Jones. And I think that's a pretty valid take, to be honest with you, because, again, we know what this story looks like. We've already watched it unfold multiple times. The thing is, the Giants' offensive line can only probably get worse as the season progresses after Andrew Thomas comes back, right? Once Andrew Thomas comes back, I don't know how much better it could possibly get, aside from him just getting a feel for the game, getting back into the swing of things, a little bit more chemistry and gelling. Yeah, sure, those things will help. But there is a line. I do think that this Giants team is flawed. This offensive line is flawed. Like, their ceiling is capped. And the reason for that is Greg Van Roten is a 36-year-old veteran. He's not astronomically going to turn into a different player. John Michael Schmitz is a fourth-year, underdeveloped, undersized rookie, or rather center, who simply has not taken the developmental steps forward that we need him to. I don't know how he suddenly becomes a much better player out of thin air. John Runyan has been underwhelming and disappointing since signing that 3-year, $30 million deal. I think that he probably is the one I could see getting better because I think he is better than what we've seen. And James Hudson is not a good player, and having to play alongside him and John Michael Schmitz blows, right? I feel bad for the poor chap who has to play between those two freaking bums right now. Okay? John Runyan, yeah, he deserves some criticism, absolutely. But he's probably the best one of those 4 backup level players. And he's playing between John Michael Schmitz and James Hudson. Please explain to me who the hell could survive that. Who the hell could look good in that environment? I don't know. I have no idea. But I'll tell you one thing right now. Next year, that offensive line is going to get a big overhaul. The Giants decided logically and with confidence, that they could go into the season with Greg Van Roten starting at right guard. Do you understand how stupid that is? How stupid that is. He was bad last year. He's never been a really good player. He's always been a fringe backup, like average player his whole career. And I like him for his leadership, and I like him in that role. Don't get me wrong. Greg Van Roten, if you're listening, buddy, I love you as a great utility depth piece. That is a great role for you at this point in your career. But the Giants have set you up to fail, my friend, because you are not a starting caliber player at this point in your career. And that's the God honest truth. And the Giants trying to sell us this bill of goods as if he is crazy to me. John Michael Schmitz is a backup level player. They keep forcing a problem on the offensive line. They keep forcing different problems, expecting different results. That is the definition of insanity. Joe Schoen is insane. He's insane to trot out this group every single year with minimal backups, minimal development, minimal financial resource allocation, and expect anything more than what we've seen. Okay? The $36 million we give to Darius Slayton, who's a low-end WR2, high-end WR3. That's always what he's been. He's not a game changer. He's not Jordan Addison. You know what I mean? He's not Devonta Smith. He's not even Deebo Samuel. He's not George Pickens. That's WR2. Those are WR2 levels. He is a WR3 comparably to those guys. Okay? We gave him $36 million and said, you know what would be a really good idea? Doing absolutely fucking nothing to address the starting offensive line. That is what Joe Schoen did this offseason. Okay? He had some good moments. Abdul Carter, Jackson Dart, Scatterbo. There's some good stuff that I liked from his draft. But I told you guys episodes all throughout the offseason that the offensive line, they did absolutely nothing to address. And the only thing they did was sign James Hudson, who's a bad offensive tackle, to be the primary depth piece. Marcus Bowe should have freaking started. That's my opinion on that matter. But more, and don't even get me started about how they did use Marcus Bowe. No, let's not put him in at left tackle over James Hudson. Let's use him as a fucking wide receiver. That is the level of competency we're dealing with the Giants brass right now. We're not going to put in Bowe, who's looked better than James Hudson all summer long. I don't care that he's a rookie. He's been the better player. James Hudson has nothing to prove over the last 4 years. Let's not put him in at left tackle. Let's use him as a receiver. Yeah. Let's take Marcus Bowe. Let's not use him as a blocker. Let's use him as a receiver. Because why would we use our superstar Malik Neighbors in that way? Why would we get unique in how we use him? Why not take a couple plays from the Rams in the red zone? Or the Lions? Or Ben Johnson? Let's use Marcus Bowe as our top receiver on this trick play on the first play in the red zone of our season. Yeah. That'll make sense. We didn't score a fucking touchdown yesterday. Greg Van Roten, John Michael Schmitz, John Runyan. We knew Andrew Thomas wasn't going to start the season. And Joe Shane did not upgrade a single piece on that offensive line. The only offensive lineman we drafted was in the 5th round. And I love Marcus Bowe, but if we didn't have him and if it was somebody else or his development didn't look as good as it has, it'd be even worse. You'd be talking about something different. It would be even worse to pile on of this. Now, there's time for them to get their crap together, get right, but their ceiling is limited. I want to get that make that very clear. If there's any injuries, and they will happen, it's a long season, it's going to get even worse. Evan Neal was a healthy scratch yesterday. That should tell you everything you need to know about what the Giants feel about Evan Neal. He's not even a backup on this team. Not even a backup quality player on an offensive line that looked like Swiss cheese yesterday. That looked like my 16-month-old daughter drew them on a piece of paper and said, go play football. This is on management, okay? The Giants have talent. I know they were bracketing Malik Neighbors yesterday, but the scheme was embarrassing, right? You're talking about Russell Wilson, who predicates his game on the deep ball and play action and rolling out and taking shots downfield. The Giants did none of it. They did none of it. The scheme, everything we saw in the preseason was a freaking mirage. It's almost like they went in the preseason. They look great. They had all these plays designed. They looked like they had an understanding of what they were going to do. And then they scrapped the whole thing and went back to the Norv Turner 2004 Dallas Cowboys freaking offense. And the offensive line looked fantastic all preseason. I'll tell you what, I'll never fall for preseason bullshit ever again because that's a complete lie, right? The one thing I liked about Jackson Dart that Russell Wilson doesn't do is keep his eyes up. Russell Wilson does the same thing Daniel Jones did here for years. Eyes drop the second the pressure gets there. Why did he have so much success yesterday for the Colts? His eyes were up the whole time because there was no pressure. Freaking Dolphins suck, man. But listen, like the Giants have a bad offensive line. They need a quarterback who's going to stand in there, keep his eyes downfield, feel pressure around him, buy an extra second, and take shots. Russell Wilson is not going to do that anymore at this point in his career. And that's why they have to move on. But they can't throw Jackson Dart in there, right? They can't throw him in there until Andrew Thomas is back. They need to have their offensive line, which is why Brian Dable said Russ is starting next week. Because they need Andrew Thomas to get in there before Jackson Dart plays. Otherwise, they're really putting him in a bad spot. But listen, that team we saw yesterday, we are a lot better than that. But the same problems are still there. I'll tell you this right now: next year's offensive line. Let me tell you, Greg Van Roten not going to be there. John Michael Schmitz not going to be there. There's a good chance they cut freaking John Runyon, and Jermaine Illuminor's gone. There's 4 players on the offensive line that are probably going to be off this team next season. Okay? Let me tell you right now, let's take a look at some of the salaries for next year. So, John Runyon Jr. next season, the Giants can get out of his contract and save $9.25 million. And if they keep him, he has an $11.75 million cap hit. Bye, John Runyon. See ya. You're gone. Bye. Andrew Thomas is obviously, hopefully he can stay healthy and whatnot. James Hudson, the Giants have to pay $2.3 million just to cut him next year. But they'll save 5.5, so there's that, right? Throw away money, why don't we? Giants love doing that, don't they? John Michael Schmitz, gone. They'll save $1.6 million, and he's a $2 million cap hit. Why even keep him? That's why. He can be your backup, if anything. Like, he's a backup level player. Maybe that's where he ends up being. Hopefully, Marcus Bowe can be a fine starting right tackle for us. That would save us a little bit of money. But the Giants are going to have to go into next season, my friends, and they're going to have to spend money at offensive linemen, and they're going to have to draft him too, right? We're talking about drafting a lineman in probably the 1st or 2nd round and spending upwards of like $15 million on another starter. I don't understand why it's taken us 10 years to get this right. And we aren't even close to getting it right. They're going to have to reboot the entire unit next season. How could you expect any quarterback to survive? How could you expect any receiver to thrive in that environment? How could you expect your running backs to thrive in that environment? I don't blame Tyrone Tracy for that. He was getting hit before he even got to the line of scrimmage yesterday. It's an embarrassment. And the Washington defense is good, but they're not that good, man. Like we made them look better than they were. Like keep that in mind. Defensively, Shane Bowen is just freaking lost out there. The only reason we kept him is we couldn't get anybody better, and nobody would want to come to a sinking ship. So they just kept him for reasons that really frustrate me and everybody else. But listen, guys, like again, like I said, I think Jackson Dart should start immediately after Andrew Thomas returns. When I say immediately, I mean give Andrew Thomas a week to get some, reps under his belt, stay healthy, and then reevaluate. Probably at that point, put Jackson Dart in there. As I mentioned, some positives. I really liked what I saw from Wan'Dale Robinson yesterday. Abdul Carter had 3 pressures and a punt and a block punt. Kayvon had 3 pressures and a sack. Burns had 2 pressures and 2 sacks. He sealed the edge well. Had a couple tackles for a loss. I didn't see enough physicality or intensity from anybody except for a select few. Burns, Drew Phillips, Scadaboo. Yeah, man. I really feel for some of these guys. I feel for Malik, who wants to win so badly, and we're gonna run some of these players out of here, man. Like they got to turn it around. I think Dart's going to be a lot better for a couple of reasons. I mentioned the eyes, but the screen game. I thought he looked really good in the screen game during the preseason. I know that's not going to translate exactly how we anticipate, but I get the sense that Mike Kafka's offense is much better run by Dart than Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson at this point in his career has to run a very specific play action based offense where they're drawing defenders in and opening guys downfield and having somewhat of a second to block. But the truth is that I do get the sense that Dart is a little bit better for the scheme, a little bit better for the rhythm they're trying to run, if that makes sense. So, it really can't get much worse than what we just saw in week 1, right? It really can't get much worse. But obviously, we'll be back at it tomorrow with Anthony. We'll be back and trying to figure out how to beat the Cowboys. And we kind of know how that goes. We know how it goes against the Cowboys. It's always competitive, and they always play really good ball, and their offense is solid. Like they gave the Eagles a run for their money, no doubt about it. But guys, just to finish things off, a shout out to our sponsor, Sleeper. If you want to win up to 100 times your money on game day, Sleeper is the #1 sports app with real-time scores, lightning fast news, and daily fantasy picks that take just seconds. Choose more or less on your favorite player stats, cash in fast, and even chat with friends while you play. Download Sleeper today and use promo code Fireside for a 100% deposit match up to $100. And obviously, you can find the link down in our description and the pinned comment on YouTube. Really good opportunity to get involved this season and really just take the unders for the Giants. At least we can take the unders for the Giants and make money while we are watching them struggle. But listen, I'll round it out by saying this. The Giants coaching has proven to be a disaster. I don't trust them. I don't believe in them. I have no optimism for the coaching. There is talent on this team. And as I texted Anthony, this is probably the most pessimistic and optimistic thing at the same time. If the Giants end up cleaning house because of what we're hopefully not going to see this season, whoever they interview is going to want this job, man. You got a young quarterback in Dart who has lots of upside and talent. There's a lot of people talking. You have a really good defensive foundation, and you're going to have all your draft picks next year for the most part, and a lot of money because Dart's on a rookie contract to spend. So if you're the Giants and you fire those guys and you go out and there's a Ben Johnson caliber, and obviously we don't know what Ben Johnson will do as a head coach, but there's a young or even a veteran coach that the Giants feel is a perfect fit. It's going to be their pick, man. Like they're going to have their pick of the litter, which is pretty cool. So at the very least, we can look at that situation and say, at least there's some reason for optimism if the worst case scenario happens. The best case scenario though, guys, is they turn things around. They get some momentum going. They, give the job to Jackson Dart at some point, and naturally they fix the problems that they've had, in week 1, and the offensive line makes major improvements. So we'll see how things progress, guys. I know I'm sorry for being quite negative in this episode. I'm sorry for cursing. I'm sorry for being frustrated. The truth is I'm just a fan like you guys. And, this gets to me. Makes Mondays crappy. Makes the whole week crappy. It's tough. And it's been like this for a long time. And I'm really over it at this point. Like, kudos to you guys for tuning back in. Kudos to you guys for sticking with us through the darkest days of being a Giants fan, as they seem to never end. One day it'll be positive. One day we will get out of this, and one day we will enjoy winning football together. I hope they can put together a semblance of a decent team this season. Because right now, like, I don't even care about the draft. I just want to see competitive football, because like 17 more weeks of this, I don't think I could physically and mentally take it, to be honest. So hopefully things progress. They get better. They learn from their mistakes, and the coaching doesn't completely eliminate, the talent on this team. But guys, always happy to hear your thoughts down below in the YouTube comment section. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. Appreciate you guys. Leave a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify if you are so kind. And we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.
Perfect.